Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us today on our Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast. I am your host, Deborah Zara Kobylt, and what a wonderful guest we have today, Mike Gordon. Hi, Mike.
Hi there. Hi, Deborah.
How are you doing? You are the co-owner and founder of one of my absolute favorite restaurants, Toscana Brentwood, which is right in the neighborhood, and we happen to go all the time. In addition to 5 other restaurants and a beautiful winery up in Santa Ynez, and we're going to talk about all of it throughout our podcast. So I'm thrilled to have you. Also, look, I've got your book here that you were nice enough to sign for me one evening when I was there. This is a terrific book. I love it. It really tells the story of Toscana and how you started it so many years ago. But I think I'll have you tell us that, Mike. Talk to me about Toscana Brentwood, which was your first restaurant, and how did you start it? Why'd you start it?
So growing up, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Italian food, most of my life was spaghetti, meatballs, red sauce, a lot of garlic, lasagna. That's what was Italian food for my family. But in the mid '80s, there's a group of restaurateurs, chefs, and so forth that came over from Italy, particularly an area called Forte dei Marmi. It's on the coast, the Mediterranean coast. And they opened a restaurant in Beverly Hills called Il Giardino. It was a little lean-to situation with fake lawn and white tables and white chairs, kind of like they wanted to make you feel like you're outside. And the food was totally different. It was basically Tuscan food, which a lot of grilled meats and fishes, porcini mushrooms. Never heard of arugula before, or radicchio. This all new Italian style food, and the place was jammed all the time, popular, not cheap. And somewhere towards the end of '89, Doc Severinsen, who is my friend and a client of mine, because I used to be a business manager, said, we should do something like this in West LA. And so I started looking for space. And I found this corner space in a medical building, believe it or not, which everybody told me I was crazy to open a restaurant there. And I made a deal with the owner, who was an acquaintance of mine, and we brought one of the chefs over from Il Giardino to open Toscana. At that time, the only Italian restaurant, one of the few restaurants on San Vicente Boulevard, was La Scala Presto, I think it was called. They specialize in chopped salads. They're gone now, but there was
sad, yeah.
Many years. So to me, it was a slam dunk because there was really no competition. I think across the street, Hamburger Hamlet at that time. And subsequently, of course, you talk about Little Italy. Well, a lot of people refer to Brentwood now as Little Italy because people who work for me, in particular, all took off and did their own restaurants within a mile. So, which is a good sign, I guess.
Yeah. Well, also, I believe that Wolfgang Puck also was a little bit of the impetus for you too, right? Could you tell us that story?
Well, at that time, my accounting partner and his wife gave me a birthday gift of a day with Wolfgang Puck. And it was where I met him at the old spa, go up on Sunset. And we drove around. We drove down to the markets in downtown LA, the produce market, the seafood, etc. Then drove back to his restaurant out in Santa Monica, and had lunch, and then ended up the afternoon at Spago making pizzas. A dear friend of mine, Joel Sill, was also with me. I invited him to come with me, and we made pizzas for movie stars. I mean, it was really cool. After that,
wow. So who'd you make a pizza for? That's pretty exciting.
We made a heart-shaped pizza for Sally. Oh God.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. Anyway, I got hooked on the idea of doing a restaurant after that. And
well, Especially the pizza, right? I know that when you started Toscana, I believe that your head chef, right, was saying, wait a minute, we're going to do pizzas here. But you sort of had your own idea of how you wanted this restaurant to be. First of all, no doubt, family first, right? Love, family, great food. And you had an idea on how it should go, and it just worked, right? So I know that you also went to Italy and studied for a few weeks there to figure out exactly how you wanted to do it, you and your wife, Kathy.
What I wanted to do was emulate the trattorias that you found in Tuscany, primarily.
That's right.
Straw seats, tile floors, open. There's not a bad seat in the house. You can see people wherever you're sitting, and casual, very casual. Bright lights. It wasn't dark candlelight, romantic particularly. That was important to me. And then I wanted to emulate the food from Il Giardino. Maybe lower prices. But we were doing whole fish in a wood oven, and yes, my partner at that time did not want to do pizzas, but we had named the company Killer Pizza because I used to make pizzas at home, and everybody said, "Oh, these are killer pizzas." So I wanted to have pizzas. That had to be on the menu, not as a pizzeria, but as something to kind of start off the evening with a glass of wine. And then we were cooking the whole fish and veal chops and lamb chops and all kinds of meat. And we still do to this day. The core menu is pretty much the same, just more expensive.
I live very close to your restaurant, to Toscana Brentwood, and we go there often. And now, of course, Bar Toscana right next door, which is fantastic. It really feels like the neighborhood bar, like my neighborhood Cheers, right? And that's by design, right? That comes from you and the way you are with your own family. I was at dinner with you not long ago with a friend of mine, and she was kind enough to invite me. And I noticed that your wife is not there, but almost every other word out of your mouth was your wife, Kathy. You guys are true partners. And we were doing a wine tasting, of course, at Bar Toscana, and it really felt like family. Everyone there in the room, everyone who was in charge and explaining the types of wines. How did you get that idea? How did you really keep to that vision of family and friends and neighborhood?
Yeah, well, I consider the team, the people that work for us, part of the family. I mean, they're extended family, not by blood, but by soul. The bar was a family item. That my son Andy, it was his idea to do the bar. It was a photographic gallery at that time. The tenant left, and we said, "Look, we're going to take over, and we'll do the bar there." That was not an easy venture because the neighborhood really didn't want to have a bar per se. So we had to serve food, and then we started serving some of the Toscana food and pizzas and so forth. But we have an alcohol license there, so you can get cocktails. We celebrate I just recently celebrated a party for my granddaughter who just graduated UCLA, and we use the wine room all the time for family events, fundraising events, but the family has always been very important. I'm an only child, so no siblings, and I've glomped onto friends and people who work for me as part of my family.
Yeah. So how did you grow up? Tell us a little bit.
Oh, I had a great childhood. At that time, LA was easy. We used to take the bus from where I lived in Beverly Hills. We would take a bus to the Grauman's Chinese to watch a movie. I wouldn't do that today in a million years. The movie would be half over by the time I got up there. But the street I lived on, there must have been 50 kids. Never had to go anywhere for entertainment or to play sports. Summers were at my neighbor's house at their swimming pool. I mean, it was wonderful. Really, really, I miss it.
We were just talking about that last night, my husband and I. It's like, where are the kids in LA? Nobody's out on the street. They're not in front of my street. My kids never really played on the street. It's too bad that it's sort of morphed into something different, but I guess that's just what happens, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So let me take it back a little bit to when you went to Italy and you were learning different types of dishes. What was that like? What were you hoping to learn from your time there? Because you brought it back perfectly. And it's not like you grew up in an Italian household where food was coming and going all the time, like it was in my family. I used to say my mom must have had it hidden under the bed because anybody came over and there it was. There was fish, there was eggplant, lasagna. And I really mean it. I wondered, well, where did that come from? So you didn't quite grow up like that, but you learned,
no.
Right?
I'm Italian, so this is all by osmosis or whatever you want to call it. But the food really emanated from Il Giardino. I mean, it was really that kind of food. It's all I wanted to do, and I wanted to bring it west.
Yeah.
But Italy, and what I love about Italy was the decor, the way the restaurants look, the casual atmosphere, people sitting around, large tables of people, family, friends, whatever, and having an evening. It wasn't like in the old days we would go out for dinner and then go to a movie. Now the entertainment for the evening was the restaurant, and so I wanted people when they came to Toscana to just hang out. Of course, when you have people waiting, it's hard. I mean, you have to turn the tables so everybody gets a chance. But I love it to this day. When my wife and I walk in, we just love the fact that everybody's having a good time. And there are not a lot of restaurants like that anymore. It's not fancy. It's I know that there's some people say, hey, we come 3 times a week. You know, we walled off the kitchen in our house. We don't even have a kitchen anymore. You know, and that's the kind of place it has turned out to be, which thrills me, where people can feel comfortable coming for lunch, coming back for dinner.
Talk to me a little bit about this book that Kathy and Amy Gordon, Kathy, of course, being your wife, put together. It's got the entire story of Toscana and also many of the recipes. It's beautifully done, beautifully written. It sort of brought a tear to my eye because it really gives us a good insight into who you are and how this really has been your vision. How did that start? The book
started, again, I think it was Kathy's idea to celebrate our 20th anniversary. That's what this is all about. And she and at that time, my daughter-in-law, was a graphic artist, worked on the book, and we asked customers to chime in with, give us a little blurb on how you feel about it. We added that to the book. We took photographs. We had food photographers. We had a gentleman that was involved in the business of putting books together. It was an interesting adventure. And but besides being a cookbook with recipes, which are, by the way, they're all accessible for people who are not even comfortable cooking. You can make whatever you want.
You've made it very easy for someone like myself. I didn't get the cooking gene out of my family, and I look at this and I'm like, I could do that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because the secret of this Tuscan cuisine is that it's not precise. And so if you're going to make a pasta and you want tomatoes, you want basil, you want olive oil, and a little garlic, it almost doesn't matter what the proportions are. You do it the way it feels good to your taste. And so it's simple. And so it was easy to make the cookbook, and we copied a lot of the core recipes from the restaurant. And by the way, the cookbook is available online through Apple. I think it's probably $10 if you want to get the email, or what do you call it, the electronic version of it. We still have plenty in the store, though. So
yeah, and you signed mine, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now we're going to
get a lot of the people who were there are no longer there. We just lost one of the waiters. He passed away a few weeks ago. Alberto Pais, who was what I call the soul of Toscana, because he was a thoroughly original and authentic Italian servant. And people would say, I want Alberto's table. And so there's a lot of photographs of people who are no longer there for whatever reason. But it's still accessible, and it still makes a lot of sense as far as the recipes go.
Thank you for mentioning him. I remember Alberto was a wonderful waiter and person, and always made us feel so comfortable. Every time we walk in, it's like we know everyone there, even if we don't. which I love. And it's very, very authentic. So I appreciate that coming, as my father would say, from the top all the way down, which would be you. Now, you also grow your own grapes.
Hey, wait, one other thing, Deborah. I wanted to say that again, I think what makes Toscana somewhat unique.
Yeah.
I think this is really Alberto's doing, because we used to say Alberto had his own restaurant within the restaurant.
Ah.
If you were a good customer, you just say, Alberto, what are we having today? And he would say, oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this pasta with mushrooms and blah, blah, blah. And okay, it wasn't on the menu. It wasn't a special. As long as we have the ingredients, to this day, we'll make whatever you want. You know, I remember years ago, there was a journalist for, I think, the Hollywood Reporter, George Christie. I don't know if you remember him. He wanted certain items, and we didn't have them. They went down the street to Westward Ho Market and bought the greenies and brought them back and made it for them. So
I love that.
I know, and it's really different.
I love that. You know what else I love is that when you went for the day with Wolfgang, he took you to the farmer's market, right? And he was saying, this is what I'm going to buy. This is what I'm going to serve. And you also got a lot out of working with him. And it said to me also the support that many people have in this restaurant community here in Los Angeles. They want people to succeed. He wanted you to succeed.
Oh, we're good friends to this day.
Yeah.
Back 35 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just lifting up your wine bottle here because you have a beautiful, as you like to call it, branchette in Santa Ynez. In fact, I was just up there last week, and one of your restaurants is also up there as well. And you grow your own grapes and you make your own wine. Would you tell me a little bit about this label that I'm holding up, if you can see it?
Well, as I said before, the Coco Bacio comes from the two dogs that we love dearly and passed on. At this point, I used to make the wine myself, and it became a lot of work, and I couldn't sell it. I didn't have a license, so we used to give it away to kids, family, and charities, especially. They would sell it, and the money would go to the charity. But a number of years ago, I learned that I could get the wine made commercially by somebody else, which took a big load off of me. And they had licenses, in this case, Andrew Murray, who makes terrific wine up here. And so he bottles it, he processes it, bottles, sells it. And we're just having a new label come out this next vintage, 2018. You'll see, it'll still be called Coco Bacio, but it's going to be a little different. A friend of mine behind it. And so it's a really nice wine. It's not expensive. And we sell a lot of it. People like it. It's a blend. It's a blend of Cabernet, Syrah, and Sangiovese, sort of a super Tuscan by way of Santa Ynez.
From what I understand, you are going to be honored this year, right? The California Wine Masters. Can you tell me a little bit about that, or the LA Wine Masters? Would you please?
Well, the LA Wine Masters raises money to benefit cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, one of my really good friends' granddaughter has the disease. But the people who operate it asked me if I would consider being honored, and I said yes, as long as my wife Kathy also is honored. And so they're doing that. It was supposed to be last year. Pandemic precluded it, so I guess it's going to be next spring. I think. I'm not sure. The next fall.
I'm not quite sure. I thought it was this fall, but dates are changing.
Oh, I don't think. No. And
no?
they always have it at one of the studios, and it's a fantastic event, whether you're a wine person or not. They have restaurants from all over the city. We'll have all of our restaurants represented there. And I say auction wine. It's one of the most fun charity events I've ever been to. And
yeah, but well, congratulations for being honored there, though, Mike. I'm sorry, go.
You will not get chicken and mushroom sauce. Trust me.
No chicken and mushroom sauce. That would be awful. Oh, that would be terrible. But honestly, congratulations for being honored there. That is quite an honor, you and your wife. So I'd like to say that. Let's talk a little bit about your restaurants. We mentioned, of course, Toscana, Bar Toscana. You've got BG, which is upstairs from Nirano, which is in Beverly Hills. And you've got SY Kitchen, which is in Santa Ynez. And of course, Nella Kitchen and Bar. Can we briefly go through all of those? I believe that your son, right, is over at Nirano in Beverly Hills, right?
My son, Andy, and his husband, Carlo, decided to open this restaurant. They called it Nirano after a little seaside town on the Amalfi Coast.
Hmm.
And it's seafood forward, if you will, but it serves just wonderful Italian food. Some of it's similar to Toscana, some of it's a little bit different. And it's a delightful atmosphere. Now, since the pandemic, they have a beautiful courtyard outside in the back. At some point last year, they decided they had this lounge upstairs that was kind of a private bar and private wine dinners, kind of a venue. They converted into a really interesting, a retro to the kind of food I was mentioning I grew up with. So they were doing spaghetti and meatballs, and they were doing lasagnas and all kinds of what I think some people refer as immigrant Italian food from New Jersey, I guess, you know.
That's me, but go ahead.
and you know, since the pandemic, I think they're rethinking exactly what the concept's going to be, but it is like a separate little restaurant, its own little kitchen up there, and it's got a beautiful bar.
Oh, it's stunning. It's stunning. And now that people are coming back, I imagine it's going to be filled, right?
And then years ago, when we opened the bar at Bar Toscana, as I told you before, we had to serve food in order to get the license. And so I had met Luca Crestinelli, who designed the menu and was the first chef there. His girlfriend lived up in Santa Ynez, and he says, "I want to move up and be with Pearl." And so they're now married with two little girls. But he found this location in it was a home, I guess at one time converted to some kind of an office. And the landlord at that time said, "Hey, we want to do a restaurant there." So that became SY Kitchen. We've been there 8 years. And it's a really popular spot up here. The food
fantastic.
The food is Luca's creation. It's different than Toscana. It's different than Murano, and it's different than anything in LA. I keep telling Luca we need to take it public, go back to LA with it, because the food is unbelievable.
How do you say it's different? How is it different, please?
Well, it's when you get a plate of Luca's food, the first thing that hits you is your eye contact, because it's a work of art. Colorful. He does a lot of vegetables and colorful vegetables, and then he does grilled meats over oakwood, barbecue. He does great pizzas up there. We have a pizza oven, so it's similar, but it's hard to describe unless you've had it. It's worth a trip to Santa Ynez.
Oh, absolutely. And for those people in LA, it's not that far. My husband and I just drove up there last weekend. It's quick. It's like faster than going to Arrowhead up that windy road. It's a really quick trip. It's a beautiful trip and a wonderful way to spend the day, have a lovely lunch or dinner, and then come home. It's very special, very, very special.
And during the pandemic, because we had such a lot of outdoor space, I mean, we were very popular. People coming up here because they could eat outside.
Yeah.
Then about 1.5 years ago, we were approached by Fess Parker, who was a former actor on television, Daniel Boone. His family approached Luca and said, "You know, we have a restaurant in our hotel, Parker Wine Country Inn, and we would like you guys to take it over," which we did. And we were delayed because, again, of the virus. But we opened a few months ago, again, packed all the time. Beautiful, beautiful outdoor venue. Indoors, amazing bar that Luca redesigned. And we feature different kinds of food, mostly Italian, not the same as SY Kitchen. And he does this Roman version of a pizza called a pinza. It's called Pinsa.
Wow, I don't know what that is. What is that?
You have to next time you come up, Deborah. It's the dough is made out of probably 4 or 5 different flours. It's very light. It looks like it's thicker, but it's light and it's healthier than normal pizza dough. And it's not cooked in a wood oven necessarily, although it's better to be cooked in a wood oven. But you can make it at home. But it's a big process. It takes 2 days just to make the dough.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's very different. I don't know. I know there's some I think that there may be one restaurant in LA somewhere that's doing it, but I think it's the
Gosh,
it's really good. And you can,
could you bring that here? Because I would love that.
yeah,
Would be a hit here. Are you kidding?
if you want.
Imagine that. It seems to me that anything you touch, Mike, is a hit. I have to say.
Well, that,
Um,
because what I think I've learned, people say, well, how is it you became successful, or what is it you know? And I was again an accountant my whole life, and I love food. I love to eat, but I must have some knack to pick the right people because I have just a great bunch of people in my team.
and a great group of friends. You surround yourself with wonderful people, probably because you're wonderful and generous to them. You
Thank you.
know, much earlier on in our interview, you mentioned Doc Severinsen. Now, there might be people listening to this who are like, who? So
Yeah.
could you tell our audience who's Doc Severinsen? And also maybe if you could tell us a little bit about how did Toscana become sort of, it may be a neighborhood place, but it is undoubtedly an it place for so many celebrities. How did that happen?
Well, I mean, first of all, Doc, for those who don't know, was a world-class, award-winning jazz trumpet player, but he was the band for Johnny Carson, the late night show, for many years. And when Johnny retired, Doc basically said, I'm out of LA. I like to ride a horse. I'm going to move to Santa Ynez.
Mm.
I never knew that there was a Santa Ynez until Doc moved up here, and I visited him, and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a retirement home up here, which I couldn't wait to retire. I moved up here as soon as I could. The technology
Yeah.
allowed me to keep working, thank God, from remotely. But so Doc was all, besides being a client of mine for many years, he became a really good friend and also a lover of Italy. We traveled to Italy together, and the way Toscana became the, as you say, an it place, I don't know, except that Il Giardino was an it place. And I think a lot of the people who would be going to Il Giardino when we had similar kind of food and ambiance close to their home said, you know, this is where we're going.
Right.
But interestingly enough, we get people even from Century City and Beverly Hills will come for lunch, Santa Monica, to be there. It has become sort of clubby, but all our new customers love it. They're all welcome, and we're getting a all younger crowd. We now have, it's unbelievable, the grandchildren of the original customers. Forget the children.
Oh, wow.
For years, but now the grandchildren come. So,
well, because it's a family place. That's why, right? That's why you establish it a family place. It's like going to grandma's house for dinner. You know, that's what it's like going to Toscana. Not necessarily, but you know what I mean. It's been in the family for so long. We're all just comfortable going there and having a great meal and seeing our friends there. I have to tell you though, every time I go, there's always somebody over in the corner, and I'm like, oh, but it's not a big deal. It's a quiet sort of
yes,
place.
One time we had paparazzi. One time. But as,
Yeah.
I remember the old Spago, there would be, the cameras would be out. You couldn't walk out the door without the cameras. For some reason, we kept it low profile. I didn't want this celebrity thing. I wanted people to be comfortable.
You know why? I'm convinced people call and say, "Hey, guess who's at the restaurant?" And then all of a sudden, the paparazzi is there. If you don't participate, they're not gonna do that. So I appreciate that you do that, and I know that they must as well. That's why they keep coming back. So tell me a little more about what's next. I mean, what do you have planned next for you?
In my own head, I have things planned. Whether at this point in my life, whether I want to embark on something risky as restaurants are, I'm not sure. But it would be up to my partners, Luca up here and Robbie down in LA. Andy, my son, and Carla wanted to do something, I would be there. So right now, nothing other than just improving what we already have. It's been a big job, as you can imagine, bringing everything back to normal. We're still,
yes.
As of this week, LA County said you still have to wear masks if you're working indoors. So it's, you know, we're not free yet.
We're not free yet. No. You also spend a lot of time in Brentwood, so it's not like you're always up in Santa Ynez. You're always here too. At any given time, you could show up at the restaurant. There you are. who would you like? And I know you've had a lot of people at your table, family, friends, celebs. If you were to create a big table, who would you make sure was at your table, Mike, other than myself?
um, I would want a reunion.
Ah,
I'd like all the past uh, people that work for us to have dinner with them. Chefs, managers. Don't forget, I told you we've had managers who opened their own restaurants, were very successful.
hmm.
Uh, I'd love to have dinner with all of them and talk about the old days. Yeah, be a big
That
table.
is a
It would be a really big table, Deborah.
I believe that, Mike, and that's a beautiful answer. That's a really beautiful answer. It's very telling of the man that you are. You know, of course, about our little Italy in Los Angeles that was sort of just christened just before the pandemic. We're down in San Pedro. Um, would you ever come down there or entertain looking in that area to maybe open a little place or a
No, I
little
come there
offshoot?
to eat. I come down there and have dinner with you, but I'm not. No, I don't. I don't want to open another restaurant. If I opened
It's
another
too much.
restaurant, it would have to be very close to where I could,
Where
because
you can go and make sure that it's done according to Mike's standards. Yeah, but we should have you down there. I mean, it's a lovely place. We have many locals who've opened up beautiful restaurants. In fact, I'd love to invite you to one of them one evening. So I will talk to the folks down there about that. But it's great that we finally have our own little Italy district in LA because
I'd love to go
we
there.
didn't
I'd love to
have one. Yeah, we didn't have one. Well, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience, people who love you, love your restaurants? Is there a particular place you'd love for them to go? One of your restaurants? Anything happening? Oh, I believe, wait a minute. I believe on Monday nights, aren't you doing something at Toscana? What are you doing?
Well, no, Monday night. Last Monday night we had a three-piece jazz combo.
Yeah.
That was Janine's idea. Janine's our publicist, Janine Sherrill, and
And my friend. Yes. Lovely.
and so we're going to try and do that again. I'm not sure what night she has in mind and how often we're going to do it, but it was just a little add-on. Not to be a jazz club or anything like that. Just to have a little music while you're having a cocktail, and then
Yeah.
I know what you asked
Well,
a question though, and I want to answer it for your listeners. Is go support your favorite restaurant.
mm,
It doesn't matter which one, but they need it. We need it, and it's been too long where you've all been missing. So the takeout has been wonderful, by the way. You've done a great job with the takeout, but I think it's important to get back as soon as you can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that. And thank you. Spoken from the heart, Mike Gordon, um, co-owner of Toscana and 5 other restaurants throughout Los Angeles and Santa Ynez. Also, this wonderful book that's still available, all about the origins of Toscana. It's called Toscana: Simple, Authentic Italian Recipes, and not to mention the story of you and Toscana. Your wine is available as well. And just go and tell him Mike sent you, right?
Correct.
Tell him Mike sent you. And maybe
Everybody's
you'll
everybody's a VIP.
Everybody's a VIP. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike Gordon, and say hi to your wife, Kathy, please, and everybody else there. In fact, I think we're going there. We might be going there tomorrow night. So if you're there, I hope to see you. So everybody, thank you for tuning into our Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast with Mike Gordon. It's really been an honor and a delight to talk to you, and we will see you next time. And before we let you go, we have a couple of sponsors that we'd like to tell you about. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I love our latest collaboration, Faherty. I'm so obsessed with their products that over the weekend I purchased everything from hats, shorts, sundresses, and even a few shirts for my husband at their Malibu store close to where I live. At Faherty, summer is in their DNA, and everything from their blankets to shorts and tees are beautifully woven organic materials, and that's everything to me. Faherty is about family, and I was so excited to learn that the family who actually started Faherty or from Spring Lake, New Jersey, where I spent so many summers as a kid. And they care about what I care about: simple, top quality clothes for every day, for travel, casual evenings, just the way we live in our family. So please shop FahertyBrand.com and make sure to put in the code DEB20 for your special discount. And happy summer! I just read the most amazing book, and I'd love to recommend it to all of my viewers and listeners. It's called The Lost and Found Bookshop by New York Times bestseller Susan Wiggs, and it's available now on paperback at harpercollins.com. It is perfect as a summer read by the pool, the beach, the lake, or if you're traveling by plane. So here's the premise. Natalie Harper inherits a financially strapped bookshop in San Francisco after her mother dies. She also becomes the caretaker to her grandfather, and it's books that become a welcome retreat for her grief and tough times. People magazine calls the book a feel-good family saga. I call it incredible. In fact, I felt for Natalie and I wanted to know what else she found inside the pages of those books. The Lost and Found Bookshop is about life's ups and downs and how we get through them. Pick it up at harpercollins.com, and remember, tell them Deborah Kobylt sent you. That's the Lost and Found Bookshop.